If you could wake up feeling even 10% less awful, you'd probably take it. At this point, well-rested feels like a myth adults made up to scare children. And yet, there are those rare mornings when 5 hours of sleep makes you feel strangely competent, like your brain accidentally optimized itself overnight. Meanwhile, 8 hours leaves you questioning your entire life strategy. I wish I could say I've mastered this, but my sleep schedule looks like a graph designed by a toddler. If any of this resonates and you feel generous, you can gently tap subscribe without waking your future self. Because the trick isn't the hours you sleep, it's something much more annoying. Chapter 1. How sleep cycles affect how rested you feel. Isn't it weird how your body can sleep for 8 hours and still wake up acting like it just crawled out of a crypt? It's almost impressive, honestly. Most machines work better when they're fully charged, but your brain has apparently decided it's above such basic engineering. Instead, it runs on this system of stages and timing, which sounds complicated until you realize it's the same principle as leaving a movie before the ending. You're technically done, but you feel strangely incomplete and slightly irritated. The secret, if you can call something this inconvenient a secret, is that it's not the amount of sleep that matters. It's when you wake up. Wake up at the wrong moment, and your brain greets you with the enthusiastic energy of a Windows PC doing a forced update. You're groggy, confused, and at least 30% slower at everything, including basic math and remembering why you walked into the kitchen. But wake up at the right moment, at the end of a cycle, and suddenly life feels tolerable. Maybe even good on a brave day. It's the difference between being dragged out of a dream mid-sentence versus quietly being escorted out of sleep, like a VIP guest being shown to the exit. Of course, all of this would be helpful if sleep cycles behaved like responsible adults. They don't. Which brings us to the part that makes this whole thing even messier. Chapter 2. The structure of sleep cycles. Most people assume sleep is just off mode, as if your brain is a phone you plug in and ignore. It isn't. If anything, it's more like a coworker who claims they're going on break then secretly does 3 different jobs when nobody's looking. Light sleep, deep sleep, REM. Your brain cycles through these like it's trying on outfits, and each stage has a completely different vibe. Light sleep is the I could wake up right now and not ruin my entire day stage. This is where your body is relaxed, but your brain is still aware enough to hear your neighbor sneeze and judge them silently. If you wake up here, you're fine. Not amazing, but functional enough to pretend you are. Deep sleep is where things get serious. Your body is doing repairs, cleaning up, resetting. Basically, the biological equivalent of closing all your tabs so your laptop stops wheezing. Wake up during deep sleep, though, and it feels like your soul is loading in segments. It's the stage where your alarm goes off and you genuinely consider whether living is worth the effort. Then there's REM, your personal nightly fever dream where your brain decides to sort your memories, your emotions, and whatever strange content it downloaded during the day. It's important, but waking up during REM can leave you feeling like you've been dropped into reality without the proper briefing. And the real magic, if you can call it that, happens right after REM, on that gentle slide back into light sleep. That's the exit ramp you're supposed to take. The problem is, hitting that ramp requires timing, which most of us abandoned somewhere around the invention of the snooze button. Chapter 3. Why sleep should be calculated in cycles. Here's the part that sounds like fake productivity advice until you actually try it. Sleep works in 90-minute chunks, not hours, which is hilarious because every sleep recommendation you've ever heard is in hours. It's like someone translated the instructions wrong decades ago, and we all just nodded and went with it. A full sleep cycle is about an hour and a half, long enough for your brain to wander through all the stages, do its chores, and then politely place you back near the surface. That's the moment you're supposed to wake up. Not in the middle, not 3 stages deep, right at the edge, where you're barely still in dreamland. When you wake up mid-cycle, you get the classic, "Why am I like this?" morning. Your body is physically present, but your brain is stuck in the loading screen. You end up stumbling around your house like an NPC with missing textures, trying to remember your own Wi-Fi password. But when you wake up at the end of a cycle, suddenly 6 hours can beat 8. Not because you've unlocked some secret life hack, but because your brain wasn't yanked out of a critical update halfway through. It's like interrupting someone mid-sentence. They're going to be annoyed, even if that someone is your own nervous system. And yes, this means the ideal bedtime is less about going to bed early and more about counting backwards like a tired mathematician who just wants to feel functional tomorrow. Whether that's satisfying or depressing depends on how well you and math usually get along. Chapter 4. Factors that reduce sleep quality. The strange thing about bad sleep is that it rarely feels like one big mistake. It's more like a collection of tiny, annoying habits teaming up behind your back. You don't notice them individually, kind of like how you don't notice how messy your room is until someone says they're coming over, and suddenly you're staring at your life choices in 4K. Take your phone. Everyone knows screens are bad before bed, but that doesn't stop you from scrolling at 1 a.m. like you're researching for a dissertation on absolutely nothing. The blue light hits your brain, and your brain goes, "Oh, daytime? Fantastic. Let's cancel melatonin and think about every embarrassing thing we've ever done." It's truly a collaborative sabotage. Then there's your room. Too warm, too bright, too loud. Basically the trifecta of why you woke up 14 times last night and blamed it on fate. Your brain wants darkness and cool air. You keep giving it LED strips and the climate of a mildly irritated swamp. Caffeine might as well be considered an emotional support beverage at this point. But drink it after 2 p.m. and it clings to your system like a needy ex. You might fall asleep, sure, but your deep sleep is basically cut in half. Alcohol does the same thing, but with more confidence. It knocks you out, then steals your REM sleep like a pirate with a personal vendetta. And of course, stress, the classic. You lie down hoping for rest, and your brain immediately opens every mental tab you've ever had. It's like trying to fall asleep inside a group chat that refuses to mute itself. And the worst part is, these habits feel harmless until you realize they've been quietly draining your sleep like background apps you forgot to close. Chapter 5. Pre-bed routine that supports better sleep. If you've ever wondered why your brain refuses to calm down at night, it might be because you treat bedtime like a surprise. You just walk into your room, flop onto the mattress, and expect your mind to switch off like a lamp. Meanwhile, your brain is standing there, holding a clipboard, absolutely not prepared for this sudden request. This is why easing into sleep actually matters. Not in a wholesome, candlelit, self-care night routine kind of way. More in a your biology is primitive and needs hints kind of way. When you dim the lights 2 hours before bed, you're basically telling your brain, "Hey, we're wrapping up. Stop acting like it's noon." And your brain, bless it, tries to cooperate. But then comes the part everyone hates, the screen blackout. 1 hour without a phone. It sounds simple until you actually attempt it, and suddenly you're wandering around your home like a Victorian ghost with nothing to haunt. The boredom is intentional. Your mind needs that quiet drop-off to stop rehearsing tomorrow's anxieties. Cooling the room is another one of those tips that feels unnecessary until you do it. Your body literally can't fall asleep if it's too warm. It's like trying to hibernate in a sauna. Technically possible, but emotionally destructive. And then there's the brain dump, which sounds dramatic, but is really just writing down the 17 thoughts bouncing around your skull. It doesn't fix them. It just gets them out of the mental spin cycle long enough for you to stand a chance at sleep. It's not elegant, but neither is the alternative. Chapter 6. Training the brain for faster sleep. You'd think falling asleep would be the easiest part of the whole process. Just lie down, close your eyes, and let biology do its thing. But no. Your brain treats sleep like a trust exercise, and apparently, you've broken that trust repeatedly. So now it needs proof you're actually serious before it commits. This is why getting into bed only when you're ready to sleep matters. If you lie there scrolling, worrying, or narrating imaginary arguments you'll never have in real life, your brain starts labeling the bed as the official overthinking location. It adapts frighteningly fast. Suddenly, your mattress is less place of rest and more conference room for intrusive thoughts. And when you stay in bed wide awake, things only get worse. Your brain assumes that being horizontal means time to think harder. And good luck breaking that association once it's locked in. I've done it too. Lying there for an hour, hoping sleep just shows up like a food delivery. It doesn't. Sleep is petty like that. The annoying fix is getting up if you're not asleep within 20 minutes. Do something boring, like reading a book you bought for self-improvement but never opened. Eventually, the boredom wins, and your brain decides bed sounds pretty good again. It feels counterintuitive, but so does almost everything that actually works, including the way you're supposed to wake up. Chapter 7. How to wake up without grogginess. The funny thing about waking up is that most people do it like they're being summoned from another dimension. The alarm hits, the room is pitch black, and your body reacts as if it's under attack. It's not exactly a graceful start to the day, more like an involuntary resurrection. The problem isn't just the alarm, it's the darkness. Your body expects light before consciousness. That's just how humans are wired. We're basically plants with anxiety. When there's no light, your brain assumes you're still supposed to be asleep. So being jolted awake feels like an error message. This is where the whole wake up with light thing comes in. Not because it's aesthetic or soothing, but because it stops your hormones from behaving like confused interns. Gradual light tells your brain, okay, showtime soon. So by the time the alarm actually goes off, you're not being yanked out of the void. Sunrise alarms work. Opening your curtains before bed works. Anything that mimics the sun doing its job for you works. And yes, it feels a little embarrassing to need artificial sunlight like a houseplant someone forgot to water. But it's still better than starting your day at war with your biology and the way you spend the first few minutes after waking. That's where things get even more quietly influential. Chapter 8. Morning habits that set the day's energy. The simplest way to ruin your entire day is also the thing you probably do first. Pick up your phone. It's wild, really. You survive the shock of waking up. Your brain is finally starting to boot properly, and then you immediately hand it a fire hose of notifications, opinions, and people you don't even like. No wonder mornings feel hostile. Your nervous system isn't ready for that kind of chaos. It wants something gentle, like stretching, or standing near a window pretending you're contemplating life when really you're just waiting for your vision to load. Even moving your body a little sends the message, we're awake now, which is surprisingly necessary for some of us. And then there's sunlight. Actual sunlight. Not through a window, not through a screensaver of a fake beach. Real photons hitting your retina. Go outside for 2 minutes and your circadian rhythm snaps into alignment like it's finally getting its life together. Skip it, and your body stays confused until mid-afternoon, when it suddenly decides it's time to be alert. Great timing. It doesn't need to be a full morning routine. No cold plunges, no journaling prompts, no inspirational quotes on a beige background. Just light, a little movement, a quiet moment before the world barges in. Which sounds small, until you realize how much your entire day rearranges itself around that first 10 minutes. There's a point where you stop expecting sleep to fix everything. You just let it do what it does, and you do your part. And the two of you meet somewhere in the middle, like divorced parents being polite for once. It's not romantic, but it works. And when mornings become calmer, even slightly, it's almost unsettling. You're so used to waking up in a fog that clarity feels suspicious, like your brain is trying to sell you something. But that's the quiet benefit. When you're rested, the rest of your life feels a little more up for negotiation. You notice the empty spaces in your day, the ones you usually fill with noise or routine or whatever distraction is closest. Those spaces get interesting. Some people start filling them with hobbies, small ones at first, things that feel too insignificant to matter until they do. Things that shift your energy in ways you don't fully understand. There's a video about that actually, about how 10 hobbies change your life without asking permission. It's strange how the smallest choices end up rearranging everything else.